Hello everyone, and welcome back to History of the Ancient World. Today, we're diving into a topic that touches the very core of human existence, life and death in antiquity. How did our ancestors navigate the everyday challenges of life? And what did they believe happened when that life came to an end? It's a journey that takes us from the bustling streets of Rome to the quiet tombs of Egyptian pharaohs. Let's start with life. For the vast majority of people in the ancient world, life was hard and often short. The average life expectancy was shockingly low, maybe 30 to 35 years. This wasn't because people dropped dead on their 30th birthday, but because infant and child mortality rates were incredibly high. If you survived childhood, you had a decent chance of reaching your 50s or even 60s. Daily life was a grind. Most people were farmers, their lives dictated by the seasons. They rose with the sun, worked the fields with simple tools, and hoped for a good harvest. A failed crop could mean starvation. In the cities, life was different, but just as challenging. Artisans, merchants, and laborers filled the crowded, often unsanitary streets. Imagine the noise, the smells, the constant activity of a place like ancient Rome or Alexandria. Family was the bedrock of society. Marriages were often arranged, not for love, but for practical reasons, to form alliances, secure property, or simply to have children to carry on the family name and work the land. Women's roles were primarily domestic, focused on managing the household and raising children, which was a dangerous task in itself due to the risks of childbirth. Education was a luxury, reserved for the wealthy elite, mostly boys. They would learn rhetoric, philosophy, and mathematics, preparing for careers in politics or law. For everyone else, learning was practical, a trade passed down from a parent or a master craftsman. But life wasn't all work and no play. People found joy in simple things. They gathered for festivals, celebrated religious holidays with feasts and processions, and enjoyed music, dance, and storytelling. In Rome, the masses flocked to the Colosseum for gladiatorial games or to the Circus Maximus for chariot races. Spectacles that provided a thrilling escape from daily hardships. Health was a constant concern. Without an understanding of germ theory, sanitation was poor and diseases spread quickly. Plagues could wipe out huge portions of the population. When people got sick, they turned to a mix of folk remedies, prayers to healing gods like Asclepius in Greece, and the advice of physicians whose knowledge was based on observation and theories about the body's humors. Sometimes their treatments worked. Often they didn't. This constant precariousness of life made the concept of death an ever-present reality. And that brings us to the second part of our story, how ancient cultures confronted the end. Death was not a taboo subject. It was an integrated part of life. Every culture developed elaborate rituals and beliefs to make sense of it. Let's look at a few examples. In ancient Egypt, death was seen not as an end, but as a transition to an eternal afterlife. This belief drove their famous practice of mummification. To journey into the afterlife, the body had to be preserved. The Egyptians believed the soul had several parts, including the Ka and the Ba, which needed to reunite with the body after death. The process was complex. Organs were removed and stored in canopic jars, while the body was dried out with salt and wrapped in linen bandages. Amulets were placed within the wrappings for protection. The famous Book of the Dead was a collection of spells and instructions to guide the deceased through the underworld, known as Duat, and help them pass the final judgment. The weighing of the heart. If your heart was lighter than the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and justice, you were granted eternal life in a paradise-like realm. If not, your heart was devoured by a monster, and you ceased to exist. Now, let's travel to ancient Greece. The Greeks had a more somber view of the afterlife. Their underworld, Hades, was a gloomy, shadowy place, a faint echo of life on Earth. It wasn't a place of punishment for most, just a gray, joyless existence. The goal wasn't to have a glorious afterlife, but to live a glorious life on Earth and be remembered through heroic deeds and a good reputation. Greek funeral rites were crucial. The family was responsible for washing and dressing the body, holding a wake, and leading a procession to the burial site. A coin was often placed in the mouth of the deceased to pay Charon, the ferryman who would transport the soul across the river Styx into Hades. Without a proper burial, it was believed the soul would be trapped, restlessly wandering the earth. The Romans inherited many of these Greek ideas, but with their own unique flavor. They also believed in a shadowy underworld and the importance of proper burial rites. A key part of Roman culture was the veneration of ancestors. Families would maintain tombs along the roads leading into the city and hold regular festivals like the Parentalia to honor and picnic with their dead relatives, believing their spirits, or menas bupruf, were present. This connection to ancestors was a powerful force, reinforcing family identity and social status. The funeral of a prominent Roman was a major public event, a parade with professional mourners, musicians, and even actors wearing masks of the deceased's ancestors, creating a powerful link between the past and the present. So we see a spectrum of beliefs. For the Egyptians, death was a hopeful gateway to a better, eternal life. For the Greeks and Romans, it was a more melancholic transition, which placed even greater importance on living a full and meaningful life here and now. These beliefs shaped everything. They influenced art, architecture, literature, and the very structure of society. The pyramids of Giza are not just tombs, they are monumental testaments to a civilization's obsession with eternity. The epic poems of Homer are not just stories, they are guides on how to live a life worthy of being remembered. Thinking about life and death in antiquity gives us a profound perspective on our own lives. We live with medical advancements and technologies our ancestors couldn't even dream of. Our average lifespan has more than doubled. But the fundamental questions remain the same. How do we live a good life? What legacy will we leave behind? And how do we cope with the loss of those we love? By studying the past, we see how different cultures have grappled with these universal human experiences. From the farmer hoping for rain to the pharaoh preparing for eternity, the story of the ancient world is, ultimately, the story of us. It's a story of struggle, of joy, and of the enduring human quest for meaning in the face of our own mortality. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. It's a vast topic and we've only scratched the surface. What ancient cultures' view of life and death do you find most fascinating? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to History of the Ancient World for more explorations into our shared past. We'll see you in the next one.